All right, bike guys, springtime is coming. We've had a long, miserable winter, and what I wanted to do is when you start dragging your bikes out, give you a kind of a reminder list of all the things to check to get your bike ready for spring riding. So, this is a brand new Riehu. My race bike's all dirty, so we'll just do that later. But so I'm going to use this bike for sample. So the first thing you want to do, get it out, and if it's been dusty or dirty in your garage or something, get that dude washed up. It doesn't take that long, makes it a lot better to work on, and you will enjoy the process even more if you don't have dirt falling in your airbox and stuff like that, okay? And then as we go around the bike, I'm going to hit all the top things that I would check before I take my bike out for the first time. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, of course, is check the air cleaner. It's a good time to clean up the air inside of the air box. There's several products for that. No Tool makes a really nice spray-on deal that'll help you clean up the air box. But get your air cleaner clean, make sure it's well oiled, ready to go, and so that'd be our first thing to check. I have seen where mice have gotten inside of the air boxes and used it for a winter nesting area, and then they chew up all the foam, and the foam's all laying in the bottom, and there's mouse feces and stuff down in the bottom. So pull your air cleaner cover off, make sure that that's good, okay? The next thing I would do on my bike, drop your skid plate, clean out all the junk that's underneath your skid plate, dump the oil, put some fresh oil in your transmission, or if you're on a 4-stroke, it should be changed, put a new filter in there and that sort of thing. Just start off the year doing it right. That oil gets in there, it gets dirty, it gets acidic, and it sits all winter long. Just put some fresh oil in there. It's exactly what the motor needs. The next really important thing is pull that lid off of that radiator. Sometimes your bike has boiled out or evaporated out. Gosh, that was easy. There it goes. And just make sure that you've got plenty of coolant in your radiator before you get started. Before you ever start the bike, do those things that we're talking about. Wash it, clean the air cleaner, dump the oil, check your radiator, make sure that's in good shape. Okay, the next thing you want to do is go around and check your nuts and bolts and things like that. Just do it once over on everything. Check your controls. Do you have a broken or bent lever? Does your throttle work properly? How's your clutch feel? Check these things over. Make sure you're in good shape there and everything is working properly. So, before you get on the bike, that's the time to check this stuff out, not when you're already loaded up and hauled 25 miles out to your riding area. And then you find out, oh yeah, I forgot to change that lever. So this is just another good thing. Go around and check the torque on all your nuts and bolts and things like that. Just get a little T-handle out and just make sure everything is tight. There's nothing's rattled loose that you weren't sure of. The next thing to do is to go around your bike and check your brakes. You can look and see what thickness your pads are. If they're less than halfway or half as thick as these are, replace them. Check your disc, make sure it's still good, it's not bent, rusted, corroded. Check the bolts. Just a quick 5 minutes could save you all kinds of problems. Okay, the next thing that you really want to take a few minutes to check is make sure that your chain is in the right slack. It depends on the brand of the bike in that. I see too many guys running their chains too tight, and it creates damage to the rear bearing and to the countershaft seal and that sort of thing. You need at least 3 fingers under the front of most modern bikes to have enough slack in the chain. This is a brand new setup, so of course it's going to be a little stiff. But check that. Check your alignment on your adjusting blocks. Retighten your rear axle, and make sure that this is all in good shape. Do the same thing on the front. Make sure all your bolts and stuff are tight, that your front end is square to the bike, the tubes haven't been twisted or something like that. Okay, the next thing to do is check your spokes. It's amazing how many wheels we get in where people will just want a tire, and we check the spokes. The spokes are all loose. That's not good. And I'm going to show you a really easy way. You don't even have to take the wheel off of the bike. You just tap on it, and you'll hear different sounds. And what you want to do is bring it to the highest. See, hear that one? I don't know if you can hear that in the video or not, but this one needs a little bit of tightening. And then you can just get a simple little wrench like this and do the tightening on the spokes. Whoops, got to go the other way. And you just tighten it up. I don't know if you can hear that. And it's a real quick and easy way. Hear how that one's kind of flat? And it's really easy to figure out which ones need tightening. Now, if you got them, some guys safety wire their spokes, some guys put zip ties and things like that, and it doesn't have the same ring, but you can tell also just by the bounce of the wrench, see if the spoke is tight or not. So go around, check your spokes, both sides. Don't over tight them. Just do a couple of little turns and then keep turning the wheel. Check them again. Turn the wheel, check them again. And do that on each side, front and rear. Just block your bike up. You don't even have to take the wheels off. Check the spokes. And while you're at it, make sure your rim lock is tight too. Check your air pressure while you're down there. I mean, come on. Let's not get out to the track and find out you got 3 pounds of air in the tire after it's been sitting all winter. Just pump that dude up to whatever your regular air pressure is. Okay, the other area that's always a problem is if your bike has been sitting for 3 months or longer, that gasoline that's in this float bowl has gone bad. It's the type of gas that we're getting nowadays with ethanols and stuff like that, and it can very likely plug up your jets or make your float stick and stuff. So it's a really good idea. You can loosen these 2 screws here, and on many bikes you can rotate the carburetor around. There are drains on some of them. Some of them you need to pull the bottom of the flow bowl off and that sort of thing. Just clean it out, get that junk out of there, run some fresh fuel through there. And once you do that, and if you end up if it still won't start and you're having problems getting it to start or wasn't running properly, it's probably a plugged jet. Most of the jets are pretty accessible from the bottom of the carburetor. Many of the carburetors can just be rotated. You can take the float bowl off and you can pull that pilot jet out and you hold it up to the light, and if you can't see through it, it's plugged. Get a little carburetor cleaner or something like that, run down through there. Main jets don't plug up too much, but they're quite a bit bigger than the pilot jets. And then just make sure you put it all back together. Make sure you tighten your clamps back up and that with some fresh fuel in your... Okay, the other thing that's always a good idea, and it's not as easy on some bikes as it is on others, but if you're going to end up pulling your fuel tank off for any reason, pull your spark plug out. Have a look at it. You can learn several things there. You can learn to see how it's running. If it's very black, you're obviously running too rich. If it's very, very light in color, you're running too lean. You can tell those things. But a fresh spark plug to start your year off is always a good investment. For the 10 bucks or whatever they cost, it's a good investment, and it'll save you from trouble later on. Okay, and then if you're feeling very ambitious, the next best thing to do is pull your linkage apart and re-grease all these roller bearings that enter all these pivot points. If you're not familiar with doing that, maybe it's better off to take it to your local shop and have them do that. It's quite a bit of work because you have to pull the shock out, you got to take all these linkages out, and then you have to retorque all the bolts and everything to the right spec. And then in greasing those bearings, unless you have some experience in that area, you can mess those bearings up. Some of them are roller bearings and they can fall out in the process of getting them re-greased. If the grease is all good in there, then they will not fall out, but usually they get washed out after a year of riding or so. So that's always a good thing. Okay, the next thing you might want to consider, if you've got, I don't know, 60 to 80 hours on your bike, depending on how hard you ride it, you may want to take your shock and your forks in for service. Now, we recommend they be done, I see them all the time where guys ride the bike 80, 90 hours before they ever service the shock or the forks. And it won't hurt them that much unless you're racing at the expert level or something. It may not make that much difference. But when you get to that point, go look at the hour meter on your bike. If you got 80, 90 hours on there and you haven't done your shock and your forks, you're going to have to make that investment. And I would recommend taking it to your local bike shop so they can get the right amount of nitrogen pressure in here. They can look at all the seals, the bumpers, get everything all back in shape. And it will increase the performance on your bike because it will ride properly. You'd be surprised. The shocks and that sort of thing disintegrate a little at a time, and you don't even hardly notice it till the point where they're just not working well anymore. So I would say change your oil, change your fork oil, get some new nitrogen in there, reset your sag, make sure that all of that stuff, your linkage is all tight, been re-greased, and then you're really going to be good to go for the year. Okay, the next thing, it's not imperative, but it's always a good idea. Depending on how many hours your bike has on it, it's a good idea to take that muffler off and check it and see what the packing is feeling like. If your bike has been running real rich for a long time, all that packing in here becomes saturated with oil and it no longer works well. You'd be surprised at how the bike will sound better and run better and cleaner if you repack your muffler too. It kind of depends on the type of riding you're doing, whether you're running a 2-stroke or 4-stroke, and how many hours are on the bike. And there's plenty of information out there on that. But that's another area to consider if you're trying to refresh your bike. Okay, one thing I did fail to mention to you is to check your fluids in your brake and in your clutch. And make sure the levels are up. If it looks dirty or old or colored or something like that, it'd be a really good time to bleed that brake system, put some new brake fluid in here. Also, this happens to me at Magura clutch. Do not put brake fluid in your Magura clutch. It takes mineral oil. Same thing with the brakes. Don't put mineral oil in your brakes. So take a look at it, check your manual or look on top. Many of them, this one says right on it, use mineral oil. But it's the same thing. It's a hydraulic system. And when they sit for a long period of time, they get air bubbles in them, they get a little bit of moisture in them, and that'll reduce the performance of your brakes and or your clutch. Okay, of course, I didn't mention this, but sometimes I assume that everybody already knows. If you have fuel sitting in your fuel tank and it's been sitting there all winter, you'd be best to dump it out. You can use a drain hose or something like that, or a siphon tube or something, and get that old gas out of that fuel tank. And you can put it in the lawnmower or in your pickup truck or something like that, and put some fresh gas in the gas tank. And I'm going to tell you guys, this will save you so much trouble. Yeah, you can dump in some fresh gas and that'll help. But if you get rid of that old gas before you do that, now you're starting off on the right foot. Okay, got one last thing I'm going to throw in here. There's a lot of other things a guy can do. Take a look at your grips. And if those things are worn or whatever, just put some new grips on there. These happen to be a lock-on. No, they're not. I thought these were lock-ons. We put lock-ons on a lot of our bikes because it's really quick and easy to change out the grips and the throttles and all that stuff. But take a look at your grips. I mean, where do you hold on to the bike at with the grips? Take a look at your foot pegs. Are they all wore out, bent, damaged? Let's see. Come on, guys. Don't be afraid to spend 20 bucks on a pair of grips. And that'll make a difference in the way the bike feels and the whole bit. It makes it look better, and you got better control. So that's a good place to check too.
Well, bike guys, we appreciate you joining us, and we appreciate it when you share our videos and that. These are just some ideas to help you think through getting your bike ready for the year. A lot of times we forget about our bikes right up to the day before a ride or something like that. So this is just a reminder video. There's a lot more information available. Stick around, please subscribe, hit the like bell and all of that stuff, and a comment would always be appreciated. Talk to you soon.